Hello to you all, and welcome to Pyramid Energy. If you're new to the channel, I'm so pleased you're here. And if you're returning, welcome back. It took me a while to press record. And even then, my words were almost rolling off my tongue, but I was stumbling over them like weird. I've also been picking up an apprehension in the air. And this is all coming to me after what I was seeing. And I'm going to do my best to describe this to you. So please visualize it with me. I saw you walking over a very different kind of plane. Walking very slowly because the plane, the terrain, is very unusual. What it looks like is like it's this thick, okay? It goes on and on and on and on and on. You can only see so far. But then it's got holes. All around, everywhere, holes. And you have this fear that you're going to fall into one of the holes, fall through them. And there's also water below this terrain. Okay, and so you're walking. One of the things they said to me is, your feet are bigger, wider than the holes. And so you actually don't risk falling through. I've also gathered through describing this that I'm speaking to somebody who wants to become more familiar with how to channel. What I'm recognizing is that I'm meant to explain a lot of the discomfort that arises as, personally, I come forward to channel. Another thing that came through after this explanation of the terrain with the holes, at times you will feel some of the water between the holes. This is all symbolic, obviously. However, water symbolizes wisdom in this case. And so, there is love, wisdom. This is a good thing because they're saying that it's through walking over this unusual terrain that you will encounter love and wisdom. This is like learning. Okay, wisdom is a form of information that you can use going forward. You will enjoy this experience. Even though there's an apprehension, you'll enjoy this experience. It's the unusualness of the experience that creates and nurtures joy. And so there's only a perception that there's danger. The danger is not real because your feet are bigger than these holes. Another thing that they said to me was, correspondence is coming. Okay. And then they showed me you sort of lifting off this terrain and turning into like a bird, almost like an eagle, so that you can see even more of this terrain. So you're flying over, and they said, correspondence is coming. And I asked, what correspondence? And they said, a cling pad. I don't even know what a cling pad is. Again, part of the things I'm meant to explain. I don't even know what a cling pad is. So let's look it up. I looked it up earlier. It says a cling pad is a type of non-abrasive separator pad, often made of foam or cork, that adheres to smooth, non-porous surfaces without using permanent adhesive. The main function of a cling pad is to provide protection, cushioning, and stability for delicate or easily scratched materials during storage, packaging, and transportation. See, this was the weird part, is that I couldn't even picture what this thing looks like, okay? But essentially, it's this it's obviously this thing that creates it will but essentially it allows whatever is put against, let's say, glass, to stick to it without any glue. Okay, so they're explaining this idea of not needing to stay on any point forever. Okay, to trust that this cling pad is coming. And what I saw was like a dome. Okay, so you're on this different earth and you're flying and you're not sure where you're going, and then sort of like this cling pad arrives, allowing you to sort of adhere to this glass surface, and from there you're able to see the terrain more clearly, and at each point you're looking through each of these holes and you'll describe what you see. Okay, you'll describe what you see, or whatever it is that draws your attention. They're explaining this need for the cling pad almost so that you don't get tired, fatigue from the flying. And as you ask yourself, what's next? They're explaining that in those moments where you ask yourself, what's next? It's almost like you need to know that this correspondence is coming. The cling pad is coming, where you need to cling for a while. As it falls away, that's when you're flying again. But they're sort of explaining that this flying experience, it's like that's the flow aspect. It's strange that they're explaining this to me like this, and also this this is not as comfortably as I usually channel. I'm not a professional and I don't have a manual. They're saying it's so different for each and every person, but that you get used to the free fall. And so then you learn to trust the process of letting go and the unknown more than you acquire a method that you follow each and every time. They're saying this is not the same for everyone. They're explaining that whoever's actually still listening to me right now, this explanation is for you. The reason they're explaining it this way, and you see now I feel smoother, is because your abilities, your skills, your nature is to change. And so it wouldn't make sense to give you circumstances that you then can cling to. And so that's what they're explaining with the cling pads that appear when they're ready for your correspondence to arrive, is the cling pad lasts, each cling pad lasts as long as it needs to. And the correspondence is always coming, and so each and every experience is different. And each and every run is different too. Okay, the word run, as I heard it, I experienced some resistance because I wasn't sure if they meant like jogging run. But I got clarity. A run is like an attempt, a trial, an attempt. So they're saying approach it like an attempt. Don't approach it like you must succeed at it. The clarity follows after. And during the experience, you can often wonder what will come next continuously until the next thing comes. Like now. They're putting me through the most, I must tell you. But this is for the purposes of explaining this. There will be days where it feels like you are turning this wheel yourself. Like a drive. They're showing me the steering wheel moving and then they're showing me the hand being removed from the steering wheel. And there will be days where you cannot even find the steering wheel with your hands, but it will just turn. These are the days where they're finding you holding onto the steering wheel and steering it, directing it in a non-desired direction. They're kind of explaining it like wrong direction, and not in the sense of right and wrong. They're saying that there are times where the heart needs to lead, needs to be given more power over direction, and clinging is actually more behavior of the mind when the heart is not being given enough room to direct, to inform direction. And so you might feel like, how am I going to drive without a steering wheel? How am I going to drive without holding onto the steering wheel? And then you'll just see the steering wheel appear and start moving. However, you cannot find it if you search for it. They're saying in situations like that, you are better off closing your eyes. In those moments where you surrender to the eye closure and the feeling, breathe. Focus on your body and your breath. Don't fear and don't overthink the words that come to mind, the visions that come to mind. Seldom will the vision arrive with its explanation. Using your voice, your throat, they're showing me the throat sitting between these chakras and like your heart. Opening the passage of your throat, okay? Through speaking, using your throat, you open the channel of the throat and allow for communication between information that's being, it's like they're showing me like these two zones, the heart and the crown, as if you're receiving information and also attracting information. And so there's this exchange and process that happens between the crown, third eye, and the heart. So the heart actually brings the information. It like magnetizes the information towards you. And the crown allows for the detail in, and your third eye allows you to actually perceive it. But if you don't start speaking, you then are not actually opening the channel to allow for the flow of information to occur. This is new information to me. They're explaining it similar to a staircase. They showed me a mini staircase. How do you expect to get to the top landing before you take each step? And they're showing me sort of the quantum of the staircase. They're showing you as smaller than each step. And so that means if you're smaller than each step, you can't even see the landing. But you've got to just take each step, and with each step, you're met by a landing. They're saying that you needed this logic. They're saying you'll be surprised at what you can do. They're saying it looks difficult only once it's done. They're saying this is a part of the gift of the completion process. And they're reminding me every single time I channel, I move through this unknown. And afterwards, I every single time I go back to a reading or go back to a channeled message, I seriously ask myself, where did you get that? Right down to how I interpret what I saw. They're explaining that your memory lapses during the channeling process. By lapse, they mean memory has to be put aside for presence to take precedence. So for presence to actually become the space that holds you, memory, which is an idea around like trying to recall. Okay, so you're clinging to the past and the future when you're sitting using memory, because you're using memory to rely on how to get to where you want to go, as into the future. I'm talking about like the moment, like we're not talking about years here. We're talking about the memory of processes and the memory of how to do stuff. They're saying memory lapses because you, in order to learn new abilities and to express yourself, expand as you express, you actually cannot assume that the tools that you have are what are going to take you forward, because you do not know where you're being taken. So memory lapses because it's taking the past, using it for the future, and none of these things allow for the present moment. And so they're literally explaining that each and every time it starts with breath and it starts with feeling. This is for purposes of grounding. Thereafter, whatever comes, okay, because you have many mediums of how to retrieve information. You see, the word retrieve and medium, okay, let's break this up. To retrieve, we know this to be like you would retrieve something that already exists, right? So it's already somewhere. So the information is available. And so you are actually allowing for access of this information. And so this is actually explaining that there is no preparation needed. There is no preparation needed. Should you prepare? Fine. But again, you need to allow for that memory lapse. Otherwise, you are then controlling which information is being channeled when actually you're entering presence in order to retrieve something that already exists. It's like watching a movie when you want to decide what the story is about. And so they're saying surrender to the experience through surrendering to the unknown of it. And again, your feet are bigger than those holes that you're seeing. And so you can't fall through. You can only feel as you step and learn. It's endless. Medium, the word medium that they used, a medium is like when we talk about a medium, let's say in art, it's like the canvas that is used or chosen for that particular piece of art or form of art. And so a medium is like literally a canvas, or a medium could be okay, if I use myself as an example, my voice is a medium. This is where I'm making my art through my voice. It's through my voice that my art is then projected. Many mediums. You might be showed stuff visually. Okay, we could go through all the clairs, but they're saying there are many mediums. Feeling is a medium because now this information is being projected to you through your feeling. Through sensing into your body, the sensations that happen in your body pre-presence, like when you're busy checking in with your body, because you become familiar with your body now as a medium, you're sort of checking in with your body as a medium, you then have the sensitivity to feel the subtle shifts that take place through your body as a medium. And so then you're able to know that that is not the same as where I started, and so that has changed. That is relevant. When you're not present in your breath and you're not at ease, you sense into a lot of the clutter and the noise. And so, for example, this is how when a person is channeling and they hear a song, they know it's relevant. And they even mention the song before they understand the relevance. The relevance is taken for granted because it has come up in the present moment. They're saying this goes down to even a car passing by, a bell ringing, an alarm going off. The feeling of anxiety in the stomach. You see, we can often get stuck in the middle of channeling when we feel this nervous feeling come up in our stomach. Why? Because you, mind-wise, immediately assume that you are the anxious one. But they're explaining that this is the importance of checking in with yourself and being at ease so that you understand your base before you filter the feelings and the information. They're saying, run along now. I feel like that's it. Like run along now. Like they're explaining that you were born a channel. When they say run along, it sounded very like dismissive, like it's not that complicated. And I know it sounds so easy for me to say this, but I'm receiving these words, right? They're saying we overcomplicate the process and the experience. And through these complications, we are losing the natural ability that is available. And they want me to actually emphasize that this is a natural ability. It's because we are not used to spending a lot of time in actual presence, speaking what we feel in the present moment. Yes, speaking what we feel in the present moment, that we are not used to using our channel. They're saying the reason for this is that, socially, we are conditioned to not just say everything that we think. Okay, this can get very awkward. Socially, we don't do that. However, you are not channeling for social purposes. And so you can set aside all social expectations when you're channeling to meet the channel expectations, which are none. It is presence, it is breath, and it is voice. Or you could write. Speaking, I just want to add here, is I'm a writer and a speaker, okay? I channel both ways. Through experience, what I want to share with you is that when I write, I can tend to find that my hand cannot move as quickly as the flow that I'm receiving through my channel. There are days I definitely feel called to write. And there are days where I'm channeling for purposes of recording. But even the writing process has so many opportunities for these glitches as you're writing. You start looking at your handwriting instead of honoring what's coming out. And they're not knocking writing. They're not saying don't use writing for your channel. They're saying writing is often what opens up, and I burped, it's confirmation, is often what releases a lot of that stagnant energy in the throat. So it's a very good idea to do this. They also want me to explain how a voice develops, and that it's similar to how handwriting, like penmanship, develops. They're saying it's similar. They're saying like when you observe, and not just the development of handwriting from when you're a child to when you're an adult. They're saying you'll find that a person who writes frequently, their penmanship, almost like the quality, beauty of their handwriting visually becomes more appealing because they learn because of practice. And they're explaining that the more, it's not just practice. They're saying this is actually the opening of the channel, because it's the writing is now being used as a medium. And so the quality of what's coming through the channel, which is informing the actual handwriting, is able to show itself and its development as proof in the writing, in the actual handwriting. They're explaining that the voice is like this too. You see, they're saying that the more you use your channel, the more the resonance is able to be carried through your channel. So when they're saying, so when a voice sounds divine, they're saying it's the resonance that is divine. They're also explaining this idea of the gift of channeling. I've often heard and I've learned that what you channel yourself is a gift to you. Okay, we share it out of love. We share it, and to allow it to reach places beyond ourselves, because we find this very healing as well. However, when you consume the product and the gift of your own channel, this heals you too. They're speaking to me about like the gift of affirmation, the evidence of your gift, and the resonance that appeals to you. And they're explaining when they say the resonance that appeals to you, it's as if like the resonance itself and the fruits of your own channel are an appeal to you. They're appealing to you. And so, you know, it's like an appeal is almost like a request for acknowledgement. And so what comes through you is meant for you. It's meant for you. And as you enjoy it, it affirms your divinity, and it heals your solar plexus. It heals your sense of personal power. It heals all of those things. And for you to be able to observe the development of it is also very healing. Okay, I'm going to leave that here. That was an interesting experience for me. I just want to add now on the other end. I saw one of the comments through one of the last 2 videos. I'm not sure which one. And somebody commented, I'll leave it on the screen. They were thanking me. Firstly, it's my pleasure. But they said what you do is very difficult. And you know, that stayed with me. And it's not something I was actually going to address, because every time I've thought about how do I teach this, it has, you know, I get all these blocks just because I feel like so many things are particular to my system. And so it wasn't actually my intention to channel this today. And I'm glad I did. I mean, every single channel I meet with gratitude. It's really an honor to honor my channel. It really is. And as much as it can often come across as a gift to all of you, it is truly a gift to myself, because it really nourishes me. It really nourishes me, and in a way that I don't feel nourished anywhere else. And so I truly hope that you embrace your gift, because it really is a privilege to observe the development of one's own channel in this lifetime. It also is very much a source that you can trust way more than you really trust other channels. because it comes through you and because you've witnessed it coming through. And because only you connect with that idea that you couldn't have made it up. They're saying practice. And they're explaining practice. I thought I was done. They're explaining practice like similar to, we say practice like with the intention of making something perfect. But then they're saying practice like a doctor has a practice. It is a practice, okay, if we look at it in terms of a noun, is actually a place where you practice. Every single session, appointment is different. Every single run is different. And what makes me a channel is that I channel. We are all channels, but then I get to call myself a channel because I engage in the practice of channeling. Each and every channel feels different. Every single one. In fact, I'm even looking forward to listening to this on the other side, because it has been one of the most unusual channels I've encountered. Thank you to each and every one of you that supports the channel, Pyramid Energy. I appreciate it so much to have a place where I can bring my channel and express myself through it and watch it grow. Thank you to all the channel members and to everyone who has sent me donations. I appreciate them so much. I can't explain how much. And I'm really grateful to God. Sending you all so much love. I need to take a break, but I realized that there is some information that I downloaded yesterday that I very much want to share with you. I'm going to include it as an extended in the description box below. What it's about is the mechanics of manifestation. I didn't realize that I was actually downloading information yesterday until I started writing all of this down. And it has really deepened my understanding of one of the key reasons I have been brought to channel. I'll be honest, it scared me a little bit. The idea that I can move things around through manifesting information through my channel, have certain needs of mine taken care of using my channeling ability through creating awareness. If you're interested in that, I'd be so pleased if you joined me. Sending you all so much love.